Hey students, it's your piano teacher Tim here, and today I'm going to show you a way you should be counting your rhythms that will both eliminate confusion and help your counting be more accurate. Music is broken up into these wonderful boxes, which are called measures. So there's measure 1, measure 2 is here, measure 3, and so forth. They are all divided by these lines in the middle. These are called bar lines. How about that? So what you need to understand first is what's called the time signature. And the time signature is this lovely fraction looking number kind of over here. And this one is called 4/4. You just say the top number and the bottom number. So the most important thing you need to know is the top number here, because this top number tells you how many beats can fit in each of these boxes that I was just talking about. This is a quarter note. So I mentioned that a quarter note gets 1 beat. If a quarter note gets 1 beat, you got to ask yourself, how many quarter notes can you fit in each measure? Well, remember I said that top number being a 4 means that you can literally fit 4 of them, since each one's worth 1. 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 is, of course, 4. And that's just the very basics of rhythm. So a half note's worth 2, and depending on how the note looks tells you how long you're going to be playing it. These, you've probably seen these before. These are eighth notes. They're twice as fast as a quarter note. They're only worth half of a beat. And I'm going to show you the rest later. You can have a whole note. Whole note's worth 4 beats into the part I want to talk about. So I'm going to draw 4 quarter notes again. And what I want you to start doing is counting these. I mean, obviously the first quarter note's beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, and beat 4. But here's where things are going to get interesting. What I want you to start practicing is when you play a quarter note, instead of just saying 1, I want you to break it down into these 4 syllables, and you're going to call these 1 E and The plus is and. That's just how we do it in music. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and Now you're going to find out why in a minute, but essentially what you're doing is when you're playing each of these, you're now breaking. You're still playing 1 note per beat, but you're breaking it down into 4 syllables. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and And by doing this, it's going to allow you to count much more evenly, and it will eliminate confusion, like I mentioned in the intro, which we'll get to in a second. If you have half notes going on, you're going to count 1 E and 2 E and You're going to hold it through the entirety of the 1 E andas and the 2 E andas. So start doing that on a regular basis. That's the main tip. Now, the reason we do this is that you can break a quarter note down into smaller parts. We call this subdivision. So when we are breaking it down into the 1 E andas, that's a subdivision of 4. We're breaking it down into 4 equal parts. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then beat 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. And because we're going to start having notes that break down the beats into those smaller parts, when we're used to counting quarter notes in that subdivision, it's going to actually make things a whole lot easier for us. Now let's talk about this. So now, I mentioned a minute ago that when you split a quarter note, you can split a quarter note into 2 parts, and that makes them eighth notes. So what we're going to do now is beat 1 is still here, right? And we're still going to be counting out the 1 E and So now we've split it up into 2 parts. The 1 E is going to hit with the eighth note, first eighth note. The anda is going to hit with that second eighth note. And let's just fill out a whole measure of eighth notes just to make sure, or just for consistency's sake, just to kind of show you a real world example of how you're going to find these. So here I'm going to play this rhythm and count it out. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and a, 4 E and a. With your point of attack just meaning when you're playing the note, you're going to be hitting it on 1, the number, then and, the number, and, but you're holding it for, you know, the E and the andas and all that other stuff. So I think you get the idea. It's common, even fairly in the beginner stages. Now you'll be like a few months along before you really start seeing these ones. Let me get these in here, and let's draw out a whole measure of these. These are known as 16th notes, and there are 4 of them in a beat. Hey, where have we seen the beats break down into 4 before? Well, remember, in the very beginning of the lesson, it was with the quarter notes, with the 1 E andas, 2 E andas, and we just kept that subdivision through the 8th notes, just holding them for 2 of those syllables. And now it's perfect because we can hit the note. We're now hitting a note on each individual subdivision. 1 E and a, 2 E and then in a minute, as I'm drawing these, I'm going to explain how it's going to make your counting more accurate, because a lot of students struggle moving between all these different notes at once, because in music you're not just going to find just 16th notes for the whole song. You're going to see quarter notes, 8th notes, 16th notes, half notes, dotted half notes, everything pretty much. So here we go. So this is how you count it. Very simple. Now you're literally playing a note on every subdivision. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. Now take note that the notes are now 4 times as fast as they were. I'm playing 4 times as many as I was with the quarter notes, because before I was going 1 E and a, 2 E and a, but now it's 1 E and a. So keep that in mind, that when you are splitting the notes from quarter notes to 8th notes to 16th notes, you're getting twice as fast each time. But so long as you're counting out these subdivisions, it's going to make it really, really easy to manage. And you want to count them out as evenly as possible. You don't want to go 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, 5. Well, there isn't beat 5, but you get the idea. There's even more we have to cover, but if you found this lesson helpful so far, make sure you smash that like button, because it lets other students know that this is a quality lesson that they can learn from as well. Okay, back to the lesson. Now let's write a measure of mixed rhythms, meaning that I'm just going to draw a quarter note. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw out the numbers of the beats so far. And one little pro tip for you that I didn't realize until I was like in college, and it blew me away that I didn't know and felt stupid, but it's that the beams in general, 95% of the time, when you see notes beamed together like that, that signifies that together they equal 1 beat. Now, things aren't always so easy. You're not going to always find it like that, but whenever you see something like that, you're like, oh, well, together they equal 1 beat. So a little tip for you. Okay, so here we go. Let me chart out. Now, we're not done yet. Why? Why do you think we're not done yet? Because, like I said, even though you're counting out quarter note here, you still want to be subdividing the 1 E and a. Here we got 2 E. I'm going to draw the lines underneath again, and I'm going to draw the line underneath here. And then here we have, this one's easy, 3 E and a, just 1 on each of these for each note. And then here on beat 4, are we done yet? No. Good. I hope you said no anyway. 4 E and a with just 1 note there. Okay, so now I'm going to play this rhythm, and by subdividing, it's going to make it way, way more easy to understand and way, way more accurate. So here we go. 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. And again, if you're having a little bit of trouble with it, you always want to plan your attack points. So when you're actually hitting the note, right? So you're hitting the note on 1 there. That's pretty easy to understand. and then the eighth note you're hitting it on 2 when you're counting an and. So always the first one of your groupings there, and then the total line underneath is how long you're holding them for. And then here, obviously, your points of attack are 3, E, and then 4. By planning out your point of attack, you're really honing in on when you're going to be playing that next note. Just make sure that you're holding them for long enough. So it may seem like a lot of work to count out these subdivisions at first, but the goal is, same with reading music or anything, you want to get faster and better, and you want to know this like the back of your hand, so that you're actually you'll start to actually think about this stuff as you're playing the music. Okay, and of course, when you're done watching this lesson, you really want to check out this lesson right here on the mistakes that you, yes you, are making while playing rhythms. It is a great lesson to follow up from this one. Remember to smash that like button, smash subscribe, turn on the notifications so you get updated on all the great things that come out.